this sermon topic, the possibility of wisdom, which actually I'm going to make kind of short because I think it's wiser to talk about, less talk about it than not. But this topic, the possibility of wisdom, comes out of my current coursework, specifically a class at Starr King called Aging and the Human Spirit. And it also comes from my recent questioning about what I really want to get out of theology school and life as a minister and a human being. Certainly, I want more than factual knowledge to draw on, to carry me forward, to carry me deeper. Now, I don't have to be wise, of course, but it wouldn't hurt. In fact, it would be, I think, a pretty big help in this field. And in asking myself about the nature of wisdom and reading about wisdom, especially as it relates to the growth cycle from mid to later life, I now know, in fact, we are all guided, propelled to wisdom by wisdom, not at a fixed point someplace out there, but as a natural process, a series of events full of meaning and narrative for each one of us. It so happens that somewhere after middle age, and especially at older age, we want to step out, step back, step aside, and look at our life with a different set of eyes. The eyes of an owl whose expert vision in the dark landscape is widely known. And it's no freak accident that we use the symbol, the picture of the owl, as a symbol of wisdom. Now, for those here today who are younger than mid to later life in age, I've got news for you. You are in the wisdom-making process, so you might want to listen to. Now, of course, anybody who says they're wise is automatically not wise. And the more you know does not make you wise or wiser, and not all older people are wise people. This is common sense. We all understand this. But what I discovered is not so common understanding. The fact that I mentioned, wisdom is growing. It's a series of events happening over time, over and over again, a thickening compost of meaningful experiences, particular to each one of us. Okay. Some of us get nourished by it. Some of us don't. We can never get an end to wisdom. We can't get to the end, 100% final, full state of wisdom. In fact, wisdom isn't a state to get to achieve, to settle in. It's a fluid, participatory sport to indulge in, okay? It has lots of benefits and a few rules, like most sports. Trying to define wisdom is a huge task that many people have undertaken since the beginning of time, probably. But trying to understand the nature of wisdom and live out that understanding is not everybody's priority or even on the radar of many or most human beings. As I said this, I want you to understand there is this beautiful grace that is wisdom and this beautiful responsibility that is wisdom. And as I said, this need to differentiate wisdom and from accumulation of knowledge goes back, came up on my radar in school, facing all this bunch of facts and wisdom, actually. And so I began questioning it. And I began connecting spiritual journeying and aging. Comments by author in all fields of human understanding and meaning-making understand wisdom slightly different in accordance with their own special field, but the consensus is this is an innate ability to creatively process unique life experiences through integration and balancing of opposites. It always requires emotional aliveness and clarity, as well as very specific kind of cognitive knowing, a knowing that comes out of questioning, doubting, and unlearning. Very interesting. A learning that comes out of questioning, doubting, and unlearning. Let me just make an example of this balancing process, this integration. For instance, our bodies are centers of activities, both pleasure, an activity of pleasure, and pain. Constantly changing, moving, growing, and dying. How we deal with the paradox of being this body. How we integrate and balance what looks and feels so opposite is the stuff of wisdom making. It requires openness and truth and discernment. It means starting over anew for the millionth time. It is about disruption, and for me, disruption is uncomfortable, unpopular, and I want to say un-American to boot. It's just what most people stay away from in our culture. It's hard to begin and maintain this approach, this new, grow, face approach, but it's also known to be part of the path to wisdom. I personally experience this difficulty very often, and sometimes I whine. I whine, W-H-I-N-E, as opposed to W-I-N-E, which sometimes I do find myself partaking. So what's a wise person in training supposed to do? Well, the really good news is that there is always the possibility of wisdom making right in front of us every moment or every few moments, no matter who we are, where we are, or how old we are. This beautiful presence of multiple choices and possible outcomes is ours to decide. For me, possibility is probably the most wonderful, beautiful word in the English language, and it holds the most powerful meaning, right up to and including its spiritual dimensions. Now, I do not insist that you believe in the existence of spiritual dimensions to possibility, or I don't want you particularly to take on my spiritual dimensions. That belongs to you. But we do have many choices, many possibilities at every turn of our experiences. And wisdom is in the making as we become aware of and find the better choices. And we're going to make really bad, rotten choices sometimes. And that rottenness is not going to be compostable, okay? It's not going to help in the wisdom process. But we continue on. The other bad news is we can actually thwart the wisdom-making process by defaulting, knowingly or unknowingly, to shallow choice-making, and by refusing to follow new possibilities, choosing to stay in that comfortable, familiar, static idea about living, about the way we know we're right and we're not going to change. There's a great term coined by the psychologist George Kelly in describing these meager choices, especially relevant to older persons, called hardening of the categories. Fits. So, what connection does wisdom, possibility, and our presence here at the Unitarian Universalist choice have? It's a community in part here that is a spiritual community. It's different for each of us, but wisdom is there for all of us. While wisdom making is a self-awareness process, it really is defined by our relationship to others. I come here almost every week for community, a community that listens to questions, to inquiry, that expresses doubts, that shares unlearning as well as learning experiences, as it also lifts up wisdom traditions already presented in our world. I feel we each have the honor to be here to wonder at the intricate beauty of wisdom making inside each of us. And we also have the heartbreak and the repair work of wisdom that's been destroyed in ourselves and in our country, in our community, in our world. For me, this is how life grows itself. For me, this is spirit work every day. So remember, you do not need to know a lot of facts or to be old to participate in wisdom making. Remember, you can refuse wisdom and lose wisdom. Above all, I want to remember that there is always the possibility of wisdom, and there is always the wisdom of possibility. Amen, so be it. Blessed be.